The soft keys is where we were getting to, right? Now the soft keys, this is where I would customize that touchscreen, right? This is where I would customize the touchscreen based on how I would like to work. Because this is obviously a graphical representation of my touchscreen on the MC control. So I have all these different buttons here. I'm going to go down to page 4 because I know that page 4 has a bunch of blank buttons on it. The first thing to do in order to edit a button is to highlight the button you want to mess with, right? And so I've highlighted this button in the top left corner. First thing, and then after we've selected the button, then we want to click on command and tell it what to do. There's a bunch of different types of commands, 5 different types of commands actually, that you can put on a button. The first type of command is a key command. Now the key command allows me to basically, if I know the key command of the function that I want to put on the button, you basically tell that button to do that key command, and then you hit the button and it's firing off a key command, you're good to go. So how do we do it like that? We do, say for instance, let's create a button that just creates a new track. We've seen that work already, but we wanted to put it somewhere different. Shift, command, and letter N, I know in Pro Tools is create a new track.
You got it.
Right?
Yep.
So if I go ahead and close that window now, the next thing we want to do, and this is great because if you watch the touchscreen, it automatically updates, right, on screen, on the touchscreen itself. Right? So now it has that text that I've just typed in there for create new track. And this is where it gets really cool, all your bells and whistles, so to speak, right? But you have the whole Mac OS color wheel to work with, so we can make it, you know, magenta or fuchsia or whatever you guys are into. We can make it green, whatever. We can also put an icon in there. When you install uControl, you also get all of these fairly low-res GIF images that pertain to certain functions. So it's just more feedback as to what that button is doing, right?
Very
So
cool.
now it's totally customized, color-coded, text on there, icon on there. I go into Pro Tools HD and I hit this create new track button, and that's what it's doing.
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very cool, right?
Very cool.
That is at the most basic level what these buttons are capable of doing. If we want to take it one step further, let's say, and I know everybody's in this situation, I'm in this situation myself, and then I start with Pro Tools session and I do a lot of key commands in sequence in order to get my session up to a working point, right? You do the same 3, 4, 5, 6 key commands in sequence. For instance, let's say we wanted to take that button I just created a step further and actually have it be a macro. Each button has the capability to basically add multiple key commands onto that button, and in sequence it will fire all of those key commands off, right, with one button press, a macro. In order to do that, let's go, we got that button highlighted already. Click on command. We've already got the first command in the sequence that we want to prompt the new track window to come up, but in order to say create 4 stereo tracks, we'd have to do 3 other things. Well, let's just have this one button do all of that. Right, for instance, so the second key command I'm going to add to this button is just going to be the number 4, right? And I want these to be stereo tracks, not mono tracks. And so I'm going to actually add a third key command in the process to be command, and I know that right arrow, which is this guy on my keyboard, is under insert special. And there's a lot of you see all the insert special buttons that they have here, a lot of the keypad, numerical keypad buttons and stuff, and I know that for instance, right arrow is down here. All right, so command right arrow. And now the fourth key command that I want to put on this button would literally just be keypad enter, which is also under insert special. Just like I would hit return on my keyboard, right, to finish the process off. And now I actually need to label this button, modify the label on this button to create 4 stereo tracks. Right, because it's not just going to prompt that new track window to come up, but it's actually going to. And I have my floor tom track selected right now, so we can see what's going to happen. Hit create 4 stereo tracks. It's a done deal. Right?
Nice.
So it's very, very, very powerful. Now that is a fairly crude example of what's actually possible. Now if you want to try to quantify that, you have hundreds and hundreds of buttons for every application on your Macintosh, each with the capability of being this complex macro. right? So the possibilities really are endless, you know, and that's where Pro Tools users, Final Cut users, Logic users alike really love using the MC Control. Now, the surface buttons. I actually have some surface buttons that are programmed to do stuff that I know I like to do in Pro Tools all the time. I want to actually create that nudge button that I showed earlier to show you guys another type of command that you can put on a button. And to do that, we go back into UControl and we'll go to this button here and we'll click on Command, and I'm going to actually add a wheel command to it. And a wheel command is basically telling the jog wheel not to jog, but to zoom in, to zoom out, or for instance, in this case, I'm going to go first select the jog wheel of the MC Control, because you also are able to add custom jog wheel modes to the jog wheel of the transport too, right? So I'm selecting the controls jog wheel, and I'm going to go into the left edit section, because I know here at the bottom, there's nudge. The way we've set up the application set for Pro Tools is that we have all these different buttons for the file menu, for the edit menu, for the view menu. All the pull down menus are there. I also have a button here called editing. Now what editing has done is actually has not done anything in Pro Tools yet. All it has done is taken me from page 1 to page 16 on the touchscreen. So if I go back into UControl and I go into touchscreen and I go to look at that editing button and how it's programmed, click on Command, right? What it's actually doing is jumping to page 16 for me, right? So that is another type of command you can put on a button. If you don't want the button to actually fire off a function in the DAW, but just say bring you to a new set of buttons on the surface, then you would add a page command. Right? If I go back into Pro Tools now, I'm actually going to close my mixer up. Now the mixer and a lot of these, if we notice, a lot of these buttons here have both a black font and a blue font. Right? Now the blue font function is the shift function, which is what these buttons are basically doing. They are allowing me to access the blue font function that is labeled on that button as opposed to the black font function. So if I say didn't want to nudge left by one track, but I wanted to toggle my mixer up or down, I would hold down shift and hit that nudge left button because the blue font says mixer, right? So now I'm toggling the mixer. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm zooming in here, and now we're in Pro Tools. I'm on this region. And I've went into my editing page where I have region-specific editing functions that I'm basically able to apply to the jog wheel. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, so you guys can see what's actually happening here, is create a region. Well, I have a nice cut button right here, so I've created my region. And then I also have, on the second page of the surface buttons here, I have all of my toolbar functionality, so I can quickly go from shuffle, spot, to slip, to grid. And I'm going to go to slip on here, and I'm going to get away from the super tool and just go to the I-beam so I can double click. I've got that region now selected, and remember earlier I showed you that we can also zoom in and out with this jog wheel. So we'll zoom in horizontally once so we can really see what's going on. And now I'm going to hit this button here that actually says trim region. And what that's going to do is allow me to trim the front of the region by turning the jog wheel.
Nice. Right?
And actually, I realize now that our nudge value is set pretty low.
I was going to just ask you that. You can adjust the nudge values. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, so we tried to think of everything you might want to do while you're editing with the jog wheel. And so we've also created nudge value plus and minus and grid value plus and minus buttons here on this same page. So I can bump up the nudge value, and you can really see quickly what's happening.
Wow.
And with more drastic steps, right? And I can trim the back of the region up here, right?
Nice.
I can also move that entire region around in the arrange window itself, right? I can slip that entire audio track within that predefined region,
wow.
Right? Which is a Pro Tools function that is not used enough, but now it's very easily able to use that. And then in addition here, to finish it off, I can obviously change the front and the back of the selection itself, right? The highlighted part. So very, very powerful stuff there.